look at me all dirty. Don't just... I need this today. I just had my final in biology, which usually I really like the subject, but if I have learned one thing throughout my education, don't have ADHD. That's my advice to you. Don't be like me. Don't have ADHD. That's a huge mistake you can make. Oh God, it was like a 5-hour-long exam, and I handed in early. I think it went okay, but like I'm stressed. I'm very stressed. So what better to do than to react to one of Rai's videos? I've been warned about this one. I've been genuinely warned about this video. I have no idea what's gonna happen. I have no idea of the plot. I'll be completely transparent with you. Just that she dared to hurt one of my favorite ships, which is Sakuatsu. I don't know, it somewhat in the last year I got hooked by Sakuatsu and now I'm loving it, and now Rai hurt them, and I just... Yay! Okay. So, yeah, as you heard from all this rambling already, what we're planning to do today is another reaction video. And I say another even though it's been weeks. I've been pretty much behind with my content. As I mentioned, I'm in the midst of finals, or rather pre-finals, which is why I only upload one video per week right now, and also the reactions have fallen a little short. I'm so sorry, right? But we're catching up today, and we're catching up with the title. I need to know the title again. 1 second. One last moment of you. Loving that already. I mean, like, good title, but oh. Yeah, it was posted 2 weeks ago, like the first part. So I'm really behind. But we're gonna fix that. With an emotional support plushie and energy drinks. Fun fact, in my exam today, I finally figured out like how caffeine works, and I know now that I should not drink so many. You too, right, by the way. Don't drink so many. But I will for this video because, you know, I survived an exam. I deserve this. So yay. This is the amazing channel you all should definitely check out because it's amazing. Did I mention that? It's amazing. I love Rai's videos. Anyways, let's get started with being sad.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here and like the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more content. Thank you for watching.
I'm so nervous.
Welcome back everyone to another video, and this one I am actually quite proud of.
From all the
Unfortunately,
ships.
this has been postponed way too long, and I need to post this before it becomes winter, and then the whole meaning of it just kind of dies. Because this short one-shot, I say short, but it's not really short, it discusses the symbolization of autumn, and if you cannot tell from the cover photo,
I'm
it
really
has also
late.
come to my attention that our countries are very different. That also includes forms of transportation, so I'm going to go ahead and show you America's school to it. When you look out at the sky on a beautiful, cool autumn day and feel the cold breeze, it made it the perfect weather to be in.
I cannot disagree.
Beautiful colors of yellows, oranges, reds, and browns blended into one another. It's as if gazing into a mirage. How could the world produce such a beautiful sight? Was it considered taboo to be gazing at the leaves, or maybe even living in autumn?
Okay, this is beautiful.
Their tree branches are empty, their leaves littering the streets of Tokyo, making it appear like golden sheets.
This is beautiful.
It was the perfect time to wear warmer clothes and get the coffee mugs out to drink hot coffee and tea.
But let's face it, that's the best part about autumn and also winter later is that you can actually snuggle up inside in a comfortable hoodie with a tea and not feel too warm. Like, usually when I do that, it's always getting way too warm, but then comes the winter and I'm just like, yay. Like, I don't know, this is my favorite part about winter and autumn, just cuddling up.
That's how Mo saw autumn. Atsmu thought something entirely different.
No.
The life of leaves were dying. The shades of green would turn into a dull color of death before they fell to the ground. To the setter, autumn symbolized death and the passing of time.
That's a beautiful
Atsmu
comparison.
had been alive for 16 years and have seen this process 16 times.
16 is a little young to be
Each
worried
time,
though.
his mind wandered to death, knowing it was only a matter of time until he perished and joined the leaves on the ground. He was perfectly healthy and active, yet he could never shake the fear. Are you excited for your training camp? Atsmu peeled his golden eyes from the window, gazing at his lover. He shouldn't be thinking of things like that. He was young and had plenty of time. Enjoy the present, he would remind himself.
But I feel like if she says it like
was only
this,
in town for a limited time. Treasure it.
it's not
He
gonna
and
end
his
well.
team in Arazaki had planned a week-long training camp so that they would prepare for the next season. Of course, I plan to kick ass so I can set to you one day.
No!
He laughed, ruffling the Smallers' hair from their position, laying down with his arm under Atsmu.
Look, I love this, and it has like a little bit the same energy of being like Atsmu with Hinata, where he says like one day I'll set to you. I love this, but if he says that now, and then one of them, for some reason, cannot be part of the game, and Atsmu will not be setting to Ami, that will just break my heart. Huh.
The older frowned. Is something on your mind? Atsmu turned back to the window. No, nothing at all. Get a room. Osamu put a finger to his open mouth and faked a gagging sound at his brother's relationship. Atsmu gazed back out towards the tree in this front lawn of the window. There were still plenty of leaves on the tree, but they were changing colors and dying. Soon they would fall to the ground, leaving the tree bare and continue the cycle of life.
But like, the leaves aren't like.
Osamu seemed to have noticed his twins'
It's
behavior.
not like the
He
tree
thought this
dies,
way
you know?
every time fall would come.
Am I making sense?
Have you finished
Probably
packing?
not.
Their trip started tomorrow.
And it's all gonna be
Not
fine,
yet.
right?
He tore his eyes once more from the window, seeing his brother's worried gaze. You should probably go do that. We have an early morning tomorrow. Atsuma nodded his head, and Sakusa would peer back and forth at the twins, noticing the tense atmosphere.
This music creates a tense
The
atmosphere.
setter
Like
got
it's
up from
so
the
good,
couch
but at
and
the
pulled
same
his
time, I'm just
lover
like,
up with him.
oh, he does protect me.
Come on, Omi. I hate packing, so you'll help me. He smiled, but it wasn't his same cheesy smile. The raven quickly glanced back at the younger twin, whose eyebrows were held at a tight furrow. Something was going on, and he was going to get answers.
Yeah.
Once the couple made it up to the blonde's room, he shut the door and crossed his arms. Sumu, is something wrong? The smaller raised his eyebrow. Atsumu, don't hide anything. I'm worried.
Communication.
The setter sighed, pulling his suitcase out.
Communication.
Omi, what do you think about death? Wait, that sounded unnecessarily morbid.
Funny thing though, I'm planning a video, like a challenge that is kind of similar, and this just reminded me so much of that. Be on the lookout for it.
Death? I think I'm failing to comprehend. Well, he grabbed a bunch of clothes without paying much attention to and threw them on the bed. It's really complicated to explain, but do you ever question why we are here? Or what the future holds? If there even is a future. Sakusa walked over and started folding the clothes on the bed to neatly arrange in the suitcase. I never thought about it like that. It's a very dreadful thing to think about, so I ignore that thought.
Is it dreadful?
How about this? Can you see your future, like who you want to be? Sakusa thought for a moment. Well, I can see myself continuing volleyball, with you as my setter, of course.
That's so
He
cute.
smiled, nudging the setter's side. We'll still be together, maybe even engaged or married by that point. Atsumu smiled
Don't
and felt
play
a
with my
familiar
feelings like
throb
this,
in his
right?
chest. What about you? Well, how could he tell him what he really thought after Sakusa's prediction? I don't see a future. He smiled softly. No matter how many times I try to imagine it, whether it's continuing playing volleyball alongside with you, or helping my brother run his business, or even a criminal robbing the next bank, I
Psychic.
just can't see it,
Oh my god.
and I'm scared. It was only a matter of seconds before Atsumu was pulled into a loving hug, with the taller's arms wrapping around him as if he could protect him from any harm that may come his way.
Look, sorry for all the interruptions, but this reminds me of something actually. And I'm hoping it's not like that. I don't know if any of you have watched the series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's quite old. I watched it years ago. It's a good one though. And there was an episode basically about a young woman who often would write poems about death and everything. And basically she had this gift of being a little bit of a psychic, like she knew what was coming. And she died, and like the main characters were all like at some point realizing, oh, she knows that she's dying, so we're gonna prevent it. And they did prevent the attack on her, but then she died from heart failure. So I'm kind of afraid this is a little bit like this, like Atsumu not seeing his own future because he somehow knows that he doesn't have one. I'm nervous about that. I don't want him to die. So when I'm laughing, I'm just nervous. But yeah, that reminds me a little bit too much of that. The thing is, it is brilliant in a way. To say someone who is gonna die cannot see their own future. It has something very philosophical. Especially, like, I don't know if Atsumu dies, what will happen. We're gonna figure out, and I'm stalling. I'm trying to buy some time. But it has something very philosophical, especially if it's something they cannot influence. So I'm curious about that. But nervous because I don't want him to die. Like, please let him be alive. Somehow. Please.
In truth, the ace had no idea what to say. Only his soft touch was there to comfort his lover. There were fears, and then there were this. It's okay, love. We'll figure it out together. You aren't alone. Sakusa pulled away and cupped the smaller's face. I'm sure as hell gonna make sure there is a future. And one
Yes.
day we will look back and think of the silly encounter. Atsumu laughed. He wished and preferred if that truly was his future, but something lingering in the back of his mind told him otherwise. Okay.
No.
He'll let his mind believe that, even if it were for just a small moment.
Not a small moment. Let it be forever, please. They need to get married and be happy.
The couple were snuggled close together, sipping from their cups of tea. Atsumu had chamomile and the other had peppermint.
Maybe adopt a cat.
The chilly autumn day had gotten significantly colder with the sun down, so they pulled out the heaters and held each other in their arms, taking in each other's warmth. Hey, Atsu? The smaller looked up. His hair was already sticking out in every direction, causing the taller to chuckle. Yes, Omiumi? Whenever you get back, I need you to help me with some new routines that I've been thinking. I could ask my setter from Itachiyama, but he's graduating soon, so it would be pointless. The setter laughed. I don't mind. The trip will be a week though, so...
If he dies
It's
on the
fine.
trip,
I
and
can wait.
Sakusa is not with him.
He smiled softly, placing a small kiss on the latter's forehead, then lips. Atsumu absolutely adored the sight of Sakusa. Whenever they first got together, he was super hesitant, but this was nothing less than a relationship full of love and beautiful surprises.
This is beautiful.
The blonde raised his hand and placed it on Sakusa's face, his thumb gently caressing his 2 moles above his eyebrow. It was one of his top insecurities, but with the setter's constant love and affection, he loved them.
Shut up.
At times,
That's so
Atsumu
cute.
would pepper kisses all over
Shut
them,
up.
so that he could prove that he loved them. I love you so much. The taller held the latter close, as if his own life depended on it, and if he were to let go,
Right.
Atsumu wouldn't be in reach
That
anymore.
voice acting just like... I mean, like, it wasn't really an emotionally charged or intense scene, but... I feel that was beautiful. Oh my god. You can't do this to me. You can't throw this amount of love just to destroy it. Like, can this please be a conspiracy against me and everybody warned me, but in the end it's all good and fine. Please. Ah.
Never forget that. Instead of getting a cheesy response from his lover, Kiyomi looked down, seeing Atsumu's peaceful expression with his chest slowly moving up and down.
Okay. Damn it. I'm so sorry. I really, really am. But what would be worse? Him not forgetting this, knowing that he will leave Sakusa behind, grieving, mourning, and in pain? Or, I don't know, thinking in this last moments, like, forgetting that Sakusa loves him and dying, at least thinking he'll be better? I don't think this will be crucial to the story, but I'm just thinking right now because... I don't know, if I had to choose, I probably would want the people that I love to simply forget about me so they won't have to suffer. You know, this is kind of thing of the only way pain, like for pain not to exist or for grief not to exist is for love not to exist, and that's really true. But like, if I could somehow avoid it, I would probably. I don't know.
You could have just said you were tired, silly. He placed a soft kiss on the top of his head before
Please
he
tell me he's
followed
not
his setter
sick.
into slumber. Atsumu left early before the sun even rose to make it to his bus. As much as his lover insisted on dropping him off, his half-asleep, dazed mind wasn't able to process and was tucked back into bed by the setter. He took one last glance at the tree that had fewer leaves than before.
This symbolism.
Don't worry, love. I'll be back soon. He placed a small peg over the top of his moles before leaving his home and boarding the bus alongside his younger brother and Suna. Suna was half asleep, leaning onto Osamu, making him laugh. You have to stay awake, Rin. The raven whined.
That's cute.
It's too early to be awake. Osamu laughed, half dragging the middle blocker inside the bus so he could get back to sleeping as soon as possible. The couple plopped into the seat, with the taller immediately falling back asleep, snuggling into Osamu's side, before he placed a delicate kiss on the latter's cheekbone.
Oh, that's adorable.
Atsumu rolled his eyes at the sight of his twin using physical affection, but was secretly happy for him.
Yes!
He knew that Suna was a great person and his brother deserved everything. He was delighted seeing his brother happy.
We stand non-toxic relationship.
He would do his best to keep it this way for
Either,
as long
like,
as possible.
The romantic ship relationships, but also
Captain
non-toxic
Inarizaki
sibling
accounted for
dynamics.
everyone before Kita
Yes.
made a quick announcement. Alright everyone, it's going to be a long bus ride, so take a nap while you can because once we get there, we will go straight into stretches.
I love Kita.
He concluded and quickly went back to Aaron's side, laying his head on the taller's shoulder. The bundled driver then boarded the bus, and the team took off. Atsumu sat alone, whether a teammate was with their significant other or simply wanted to hog an entire seat so they could rest. Even if he did have an entire seat, he desired to have Sakusa by his side.
No, this is too cute.
Their time was limited from the start, but the fact that Sakusa was in town and he was away absolutely killed him.
Stop it.
It wasn't fair.
No.
He sighed, leaning his head against the window.
This is
The
not.
bus was running at a fast rate. He looked towards the ground outside and saw colorful blurs of oranges and reds through the bus's headlights.
Foreshadowing much.
The sun was finally peeking over the horizon, which would make getting sleep out of the question, at least for him. Atsumu lifted his head when he felt a slight jerk on the bus. Kita even raised his head from Aaron's shoulder to make a quick examination of the situation. They both thought nothing of it, until they felt a much more violent tug.
Stop it. No.
Kita stood up and walked up towards the driver to ask what was going on when he caught a gleam of something in the corner of his vision.
Shut up.
The peeking sun reflected off a glass bottle that was nearly empty. He recognized the logo because it was the same drink his grandmother would have to unwind after a certain long day at the farm.
What?
Stop this bus! Kita's outburst made everyone snap up, curious at all of the commotion being made, especially from the level-headed captain.
Oh, and Kia is
Aaron stood
freaking
out,
out. That's
wondering
not
why
good.
his own lover was yelling. Even Suda sat up, sleep being the last thing on his mind. Atsumu glanced at his twin, feeling the familiar panic that Autumn always brought up. The younger returned a look that told him that everything would be fine, but for once, he wasn't so sure.
Stop it.
There was another violent tug on the bus whenever the driver had passed out from his drunken stupor. Kita grabbed onto the wheel, but the driver's foot was still on the gas, and he never could take control of the wheel.
Who the fuck hired this driver?
Kita took one last glance towards his teammates' frightened and panic-written expressions and gave an apologetic look for failing them as their friend and captain.
Stop. I need a moment. Ah. Why can I imagine this so well? Like, I have it in my mind in such great detail and just... Kita. Oh my god. Kita. No. Oh my god. Like, Kita would be one of these people, like... I think Kita would, like, never lie. So instead of being like, it's gonna be alright, he would probably say exactly like that, being like apologetic and being like, I enjoyed the time I had with you. Like more of this kind of thing. Oh, no. Oh my god. This is bad. This is... I can't. Okay.
He couldn't save them. The bus swerved with the leaves covering the road, making them more slick than usual. There was a deafening sound of glass shattering and screams coming from the volleyball players as the bus flipped over many times. Atsumu lost count. The first thing the setter could notice was the smell and feeling of the cold morning air. It was slightly foggy with the morning dew decorating the colorful leaves on the ground and the roof of the bus, which he could oddly enough see.
God.
Honestly, it would be a perfect start to a day to go jogging in this weather. And the next thing he noticed made his entire body freeze over. He couldn't even tell if he was breathing or even had a pulse. He just knows the sight was enough to kill him.
If it's his brother, I'm gonna lose it. Also, Rai. Stop with that voice. Stop with that voice. It's too good. No. Look, this is already emotional torture. But then this voice. Are you trying to kill me? I beg your pardon? god. I'm gonna regret this.
His eyes met the same gray-blue eyes that he's known his entire life, but there was something different. These held no emotion, or even life.
No.
Osamu? He was unresponsive. His eyelids were lazily held open. His arms were loosely holding Suna, who was also frighteningly still. His chest wasn't moving up or down like it should. He was gone. Samu! He went to run towards him, but was held back, being pinned by a metal beam from the bus's seats going through his abdomen. He wasn't sure why he hadn't noticed it sooner, but that didn't matter. He looked for Kita or Aaron, somebody from Inarizaki, but he was met with the same blank stare. The black floors were painted in a crimson red.
Is it worse to die on the spot
The
or
setter
to
turned back
survive?
towards Osamu, his twin. His younger brother, someone he'd known his entire life, since the very first day. Seeing him like this dead felt like half of him died.
Look, not the
No.
twins. Don't do
Tears
this to
stung his
me.
eyes. He couldn't accept this.
Oh my god.
He'd always imagined him being the first to die since he was older. Never once did he think that he would have to witness his twin's death. His own baby brother was dead in front of his eyes.
No.
Osamu! Fucking wake up! He strained against the beam, his throat burned. He wanted to scream and cry. He looked at how even when his brother was gone, he still had this protective manner towards Suna. If the middle blocker had known that those were his final moments with Osamu, would he have continued to nap? Knowing them, though, they would probably come up with some lame, cheesy line, like just being together was enough. At least he was happy. Realizing he was all alone, and almost everyone he'd ever known was dead, he was scared. He didn't want to die. He prayed to any deity that was watching that this was all a dream, or the team would turn out fine, that at least his twin was okay.
Oh my god. Imagine that though. Like, for 1 second. First of all, you have this whole huge amount of survivor skill right now, which is well written, tearing my heart out, pick your poison, whatever. But then imagine that. Imagine, like, wishing your twin was okay, like, being in your mind, like, if just Osamu survived. Like, it's a completely logical thing, but imagine how guilty he would feel in case Osamu survived later, or to think that, you know, he would give, like, everything, even the rest of the team, for his brother. You know what I mean? Like, it's logical and absolutely not his fault, but, like, imagine how guilty he would feel about it. Oh.
Give them back! Give him back! He couldn't accept this. He cursed whoever did this. In a way, he felt his prayer was being answered, just in a different way. He would reunite with his team and brother soon. His time was running out. Omi.
Oh god.
The blonde couldn't leave this world without saying anything to his lover. Not like this. He reached for his phone, but it was nowhere in sight. He wouldn't be surprised if it flew out the window during the commotion. Luckily, Osama's phone was close. The screen was beyond shattered, but it still worked. He found Sakusa's contact, leaving bloody fingerprints.
Oh god,
in his tape.
no.
The phone rang, and he only hoped that Sakusa was awake, and he would pick up the call. He was fading fast. The pieces of glass stuck in his skin began to feel numb. He couldn't move. It was getting hard to tell what was real, and what was his delirious imagination from losing too much blood. What do you want, Mia? Atsumu laughed lightly, forgetting for a second that this was Osama's phone. It sounded like he had just woken up, and he'd hoped that the ace would forgive him later for waking him. That's rude. Omi. His voice was strained and weak, but hopefully the latter didn't notice. How can he tell the one that he planned his entire future with that he would break all those promises and leave? There was a pause, and the setter could only imagine the latter doing a double take to check the contact name. Tsumu? Why are you using Osama's phone? I guess my phone didn't charge last night, and Sama wasn't using his. He could hear the taller moving around like he was sitting up in bed. His voice brought him peace.
Don't do this.
Is everyone else still asleep? Atsumu scanned the area that reeked of blood. The bodies of his teammates scattered both in and out of the bus. The walls, floor, green grass, as well as the dead brown leaves that had scattered smears of a crimson red. He's always been afraid of letting go. Seeing his twin like this was like admitting he was letting go, even though he knew that they would be crossing paths again very soon. Yeah. Asleep. That was a better way of putting it. He couldn't help but laugh at the bitter edge. He had always had a fear of dying, yet here he is, facing it head on, just when things were going great too. He had a future with the love of his life.
Isn't that kind of the rule in life, though? Like, if there's one thing that I learned from animes, is that the better it goes, the closer you get to getting punched in the throat. Nah, that's pessimistic. But like, oh my god, if it's I can't.
He never knew what it was, but Tsukusa was willing to help him. Finally, the blank visions of his future were finally making sense. The world was the tree. It still had many years ahead. There will be many sets of leaves that will bud and flourish before they wilt and die.
Fuck, no, that's too good of an analogy. And I was just saying
Atsumu
before,
was merely
the tree survives, but like, fuck, no. Why does this fit so well? Why is this so good? No. I'm not accepting that. Give me my Atsumu back. And my Osamu. My Kira. My Eren. My Sina. My Omimi and all the other parts of the demon.
another leaf, and the world will continue. I love you so much, Kiyomi. This caught the taller off guard. It was rare that the setter would use his real name. It was only whenever he was angry or really serious about something, and the sincerity laced in his voice told him he wasn't angry. I love you too. Is something wrong?
Yes.
No. He smiled.
No.
I just wanted to hear your voice. For one last time. Please, keep talking.
The voice
He
acting,
mustered
this
the
is
last
not
of the
fair.
strength to say that last sentence, relishing that the ace didn't question him any further. Well, whenever you get back from training camp, I thought of some additional approaches to try to practice on our attacks. He went on and on. Atsumu smiled, letting a single tear escape his eyes. Feeling his arm going numb from holding the phone, he dropped it onto his lap. While he couldn't move to press the speaker button, he was still able to hear his lover's voice, even if it was muffled from the blood getting into the speakers.
Shut up.
I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to tell you, and you'll have to find out by somebody else. I'm sorry that you'll have to learn how to live without me. I'm sorry I broke our promises. I'm sorry I didn't really believe you when you said you'd make me a future. I guess I saw this coming. I'm sorry I gave you false hope. I'm sorry that I'm dying. With his dying thought, he thought of marriage vows, which were cringy, but at the moment, it gave him peace.
So...
I love you, Sekisa Kiyomi, even when after death does us part. He took in one last breath before he gave into his eternal rest. I think that would definitely... Atsu? Are you still there? Sekisa chuckled. You could have just said you were tired, silly.
No.
He had a sense of deja vu hit him. I love you. Call me when you get there safely. He said, knowing that the latter wouldn't hear, and he couldn't have been more wrong. After he hung up the call, he glanced outside and saw the same tree Atsumu was so fixated on the day prior. There was one singular yellow leaf still on the branch. He witnessed that same leaf snap and fall to the ground.
In a way, he witnessed his lover dying.
Well, now I'm kind of expecting all of you to murder me. But not to worry, I do already have an alternative version so that you do get a happy ending, because this is kind of angsty even for me. So just expect that in the near future. And again, I am so sorry. I know you guys are, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. But not really. Anyways, thank you for watching. As always, if you like to be kept up to date,
Right. Can I remind you of something? It's just a real quick reminder of a little detail. I need to remember in which part it was. This one, perhaps?
I guess this is what you'd call revenge. But dang, no! There is a line where you can't cross and you crossed it. Freaking amazing.
I want you just to think about that for a hot second. I mean, your own quote on that. Because, honestly, I don't really know what I did to deserve this. This was harsh. This was harsh. Hurt. My poor Sakura-san. Oh my god. I loved it. I loved the wording. I loved the analogy. I'm afraid of the alternative ending. Because maybe Sakuratsu survives, but what about Samu? What about Suna? What about the whole rest? On the other hand, I really need more, like, I need a happy ending right now, so we're gonna do this in one go, because my heart is too fragile for just, yes.
but y'all really came after me.
Deserved.
Anyways, this is the alternative ending of whatever the heck happened earlier this week. This is also something I would like to call a butterfly effect. Although it's sort of is and sort of isn't. You'll see. I'm sorry that I'm dying. With his last dying thought, he thought of marriage vows, which are cringy, but at the moment, it gave him peace. I love you, Sekisa Kiyomi. Even after death does us part. He took in one last breath before he gave into his eternal rest. Kida stood up and walked up towards the driver to ask what was going on when he caught a glimpse of something in the corner of his vision.
Oh god. I'm nervous.
The peeking sun reflected off the glass bottle that was nearly empty. He recognized the logo because it's the same drink his grandmother would have to unwind after a certain long day at the farm.
Stop this bus!
Kida's outburst made everyone snap up, curious at all of the commotion being made, especially from their level-headed captain. Eren stood up, wondering why his own lover was yelling. Even Suna sat up, sleep being the last thing on his mind. Atsumu glanced at his twin, feeling familiar panic that Autumn always brought up. The younger returned a look that told him that everything would be fine, but for once, he wasn't so sure. There was another violent tug on the bus whenever the driver had passed out from his drunken stupor. Atsumu paused. This had happened before. He's seen it, felt it. He wasn't sure how, but he knows Kita will fail to catch control of the wheel and the bus will flip. He knows that everyone on this bus will die. He couldn't let that happen. He pushed his fear down in the back of his throat and glanced toward his brother, whose petrified glance reminded them of when they were kids. Osamu would come up to his bed, crying, convinced he'd seen a monster. It would of course freak Atsumu out, but they stuck together. The setter stood up from his seat.
Harry.
Tsumu? If this fails, take care of Kiyomi. What are you...
If this time just us
Spiker reached for his twin, but the blonde was already far out of reach.
Atsumu!
Before Kita could grab a hold of the wheel, the starter pushed him back into Eden's lap and threw the passed-out bus driver from the seat who conveniently wasn't wearing a seatbelt before he plopped into the seat and grabbed a hold of the wheel. He'd never driven a car before, let alone a bus, but he knew the basics. He pressed his foot harshly onto the brake pedal and steadied the wheel. The leaves on the ground still made it impossible not to crash, but it definitely saved them a couple of flips.
Hold on!
Everyone braced themselves, holding onto the metal bars underneath their seats for dear life, and the bus flipped onto its side and slid across the asphalt a few meters before it came to an immediate halt. Glass and luggage was everywhere. Everyone that was seated on the left side of the bus was thrown onto the right, where the ground now was. Kita rose up, feeling a sharp shard of glass wedged underneath his shoulder blade, before checking Eren, whose only major injury was a concussion from the looks of it.
Oh my god.
Kita stood up, examining the scene of disaster, finding his teammates one by one poking their heads over the flipped seats.
They're alive. They're alive.
Osamu, wake up! Kita shot his head in that direction and ran that way, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Osamu groaned, opening his eyes, seeing his lover panicked.
Oh. Why are you doing this to me?
He sat up, with Suna barely catching him from knocking his head against the chair leg that was miraculously still holding up. His back was killing him. Suna was still in his arms during the wreck, so Osamu took the brunt of the hit for them, with his back hitting the ground. Seeing that he was alright, Kita turned towards the driver's seat, remembering the person that saved them all. How's Sumu? The spiker asked his captain, but Kita didn't respond. Kita-san, where's Atsumu? He was getting more impatient, but the captain truly didn't have an answer. The driver's seat was empty, and there was a gaping hole through the windshield, enough for one person to crash in through.
Where is my brother?
Osamu stood up despite his boyfriend's protest and walked out of the bus, stumbling along the way. Samu, wait! Suna ran after him, but didn't once interfere once the setter was found, unmoving and surrounded in a pool of his own blood. The middle blocker gasped and sunk to his knees, watching his lover run towards his twin. After hearing someone call for an ambulance, Osamu dared to check if his brother was even breathing. He was scared.
But it's not a happy
He
ending.
didn't want to think what would happen if Atsumu really was gone. He didn't think he would be able to bear it. He started sobbing, reaching a trembling hand out and grabbing his twin's bloodied one. You're gonna be okay. You have to hold on. Please, don't leave me, Sumu. Suna grabbed Asuma's phone that was in his own pocket and dialed Sakusa's number. He didn't expect him to pick up, so froze on the spot whenever he did. What do you want, Mia?
And this time it's Azumu. For real.
What was he supposed to say? How could he even admit the words aloud? Immediately, he instantly regretted calling the ace. Hello? Suna stifled a sob and covered his mouth with his hand once more. Asumu? What's going on? He sucked in a shaky breath and spoke. It's Suna. He had so many questions and didn't even know where to begin. Are you crying? The loud sobs seemed to have answered his question.
No.
Where is Osamu? Suna sniffled. He's next to me. Can he come to the phone? Suna glanced at the silver hair spiker in a worse state than him. I don't think so.
It's alright, okay? It's alright.
What about Atsu? The raven's voice broke, looking at the spoken setter, still not moving or waking. He could hear Sakusa on the other line rushing out the door. Where are you? In truth, he didn't have a definite answer, but had a rough estimation. We didn't make it far, just past the school. While Suna was conversing with Sakusa, Eden dashed up towards the twins, diving on his bare knees, and pressed 2 fingers against the groove of his neck where his artery was, and waited. And waited.
No.
And waited.
No.
And waited. Yet, he got nothing. Eden?
I'm not okay.
The ace's breath hitched.
Fuck,
It couldn't be.
right.
There was no pulse.
This is not what I meant by an alternative ending.
He was certified in CPR and had well enough experience and knowledge on how to bring someone back to life and keep them that way until paramedics arrive, but those were strangers. Never once was it someone he knew. Precious Atsumu, of all people.
Also, if he's bleeding out from too many wounds and
Kita,
you cannot stop the
I
bleeding,
need a
there is
cloth.
not that much you can do.
He had to do something about the blood. He was losing too much. Kita immediately ran to the bus, where he grabbed a shirt from a busted open suitcase. Wait, what's going on? Asumu sniffled, looking at Eden, who put his hands together and began compressing his hands onto his twin's chest. Asumu went to stop him, in disbelief of what was happening and what was going on. His twin brother wasn't dead.
They're trying to keep him alive. Nens can't.
Suna held his lover back so that Eden could keep him alive. We are losing him! Asumu sucked in a deep breath, with
I'm sure
wide
you're
blown
not
silver
already
eyes
lost.
peering down in horror at his other half as the crimson red from his body was spreading down into the earth. This couldn't be possible. Death was never an option he was willing to accept for his twin. They were so young, so the possibility that one of them would die was anything but the present. Yet, he didn't have the willpower in him to fight. Watching his captain apply pressure into Atsumu's gaping side, while his upperclassmen pushing air into his brother's lungs that were aching for oxygen. He was scared. Asumu was scared. This wasn't like his fears when he was a child going to his twin's bedside, crying about some monster underneath his bed. This was a fear that he had deep down, but never had the courage to accept. The fear of his twin dying, of watching him die right in front of him.
It's just.
Losing
Why?
Atsumu was equivalent as to the sun falling from the sky. There could be no life without the sun, The light, the source of all life. All source of hearing, feeling, and senses began to feel numb. He couldn't see what was happening to his brother, or the smell of the horrid blood of his brother's blood, or even Suna holding him close to sobbing into his shoulder. It was all incoherent. He couldn't even hear the sirens that were once far off into the distance suddenly appear so close, or when the ace of an Tachiyama ran to Atsumu's side with his own blood running cold at the sight of his beloved. The paramedics rushed to the scene just as Atsumu opened his eyes with sweat beating down his brow. Tsumu! Omi. His voice was hoarse and barely had the strength to produce any noise.
Bro, he was just unconscious, bleeding out with no pulse.
But upon hearing that beautiful
Oh my
melody
God.
that was Asato's voice, everyone turned to him. Atsumu! Kita crouched to the ground and rubbed his hand across his forehead, letting out a breath he didn't even know he was holding. Aden muffled some sobs of his own, wiping the smaller's blood with trembling hands with someone's clothes that flew out of the bus. But just as quickly as he woke up, he found himself slipping away once more. Sir? Sir, you need to stay awake. They placed him onto a stretcher, placing a ventilator over his mouth. But during all of this, Atsumu couldn't help but smile. One life, everyone died. In this one, everyone is alive, while it seems that he died in both.
You're gonna
He let
survive.
his head drop to the side, gluing his eyes onto his twin and lover for one last time before he shut his eyes once more.
You're gonna survive. We have to survive. If he doesn't survive, I won't accept this.
The raven had a mask over his nose, trying to block the smell of blood that seemed to linger in the waiting room. Most of the team got off with minor injuries and went home, ultimately deciding on canceling the training camp.
Oh, really? Just because the entire team is injured one way or another, you cancel a training camp? How? I don't even know if you should do that. I mean, sorry, I'm still stalling. I mean, of course you would. Like, ultimately deciding that that's not an ultimate decision. This is we kinda all are traumatized now. Oh, and also, our captain has a shard of glass stuck on his shoulder. And most of our people have a concussion and are severely bleeding. Should we go to the training camp? No! Like, and on top of that, yeah, that is the base layer. But on top of that, you have a teammate potentially dying. Like, I feel like that would also be reason enough. Kinda, you know, the trauma and everything. Sorry, I mean, it's all well written in the development. Like, this is not an ultimate decision. This is nobody of them can play for at least 2 days. Like, before everything gets checked of internal injuries, concussions, recovering from the shock. That is at least 2 days for each of them, even those who are just have some scraps and scratches. But then adding the other stuff on top of that, they're out for 2 weeks, probably. In the very least, so. Heck. He survives, it's okay.
The only ones that stayed were Osmu, Suna, Aden, and Kita. Tsukusa couldn't help but notice how the ace's hands had a slight tremble while his leg was bouncing up and down, and the captain was biting at his nails with his own eyes glued to the floor. You care about him.
Of course. Of course.
The couple looked up at Tsukusa with tear-filled eyes. Of course we do. He is a close friend. That's not what I meant. Osama looked up at the two boys that he looked up to. Do you like my brother? They both immediately shot an apologetic look towards Tsukusa for even thinking it was okay to feel that way towards his boyfriend.
Wait.
Look. They were interrupted with a nurse walking up to them.
I'm sensing polyamory. Oh my god.
Are you boys here for Mia Atsumu? Osamu was the first to jump out of his chair and walk towards the startled nurse.
Oh my god. Okay. Listen. As horrible as all the situation around it is, I love this. Even if the end goal of this would not be polyamory or anything, or Sakuretsu Rankita, even if that would not be the case, but just like acknowledging that someone else likes, for example, your partner romantically, and not reacting with jealousy, but doing this, oh my god, in this very non-toxic manner and communication. Fuck, I love this. Like, even in real life. Like, look at it in real life. You don't have to be in a polyamorous relationship to just talk about these things just respectfully and good. And, this is such a good example. I'm loving this. It's okay. Well, cool now. This was just one sentence. I can't even judge from just that alone. But, like, advice for life, don't be jealous. I love this.
How is my brother?
Sina grabbed a hold of his lover's arm, a silent way of telling him to calm down. The nurse smiled warmly and pulled out his clipboard, flipping through some papers before he found the final diagnosis. Don't worry, he is just fine. We were able to get him stable. Right now, he just needs to focus on resting and healing. Osamu fell to his knees, feeling hot, fresh tears of relief stream down his cheeks.
Oh my god. He's okay. He's alright.
Thank you.
Yay.
What all is wrong? Well, Mr. Mio was super fortunate. An accident like that could have resulted in spinal cord injury, brain damage, or even death.
Okay, now we have the things he does not have, so that's good.
It seems like he has some torn ligaments and muscles, broken bones, a concussion, and deep lacerations.
That's good, but not death, so I take it.
The nurse turned towards Eren and Kita. If you two boys didn't perform CPR or prevent bleeding, your friend most certainly would have died. You bought your friend time and saved his life. Sakusa looked back at the two, having conflicting feelings. He shouldn't feel this way. Kita broke down, relieved that he did something good. It was true he didn't know where he stood as far as how he felt about the setter, but there wouldn't have been a way to figure it out if he was gone. He didn't want him to be out of reach. He'd rather be friend-zoned and him alive than be in love with him and him dead. That fate would be unbearable.
Yes. I mean, I don't like the word friend-zone.
Sakusa had never felt more
Yes.
panicked whenever he received the call from a sobbing Suna. He could hear everything, sobs, screams, pained groans in the background. That moment he heard that his Atsumu was hurt and gone, took his breath away. He lost all sense of direction and couldn't figure out which way was up or down, left or right. It was as if he was levitating in a motionless void with no bottom and no top. For all he knew, he could have been walking on the walls and wouldn't have even known.
Okay, the imagery's too
His
funny.
mind
but
became
I
a
love
fuzzy
it.
mess, and even began to question if he were still asleep, and he would wake up to find Atsumu rushing around his room, running late for the bus to take him to training camp. That would have been a much preferable fate.
Sure.
He wanted someone to tell him that those words Suna spoke were nothing but a bitter lie, and just maybe this was just a foul prank. He didn't want to say goodbye and let him leave. Walking into the room, all smooth right on his tail, he saw the older twin still, lying in the bed with tubes and wires all over the place. The sight was horrifying, but it kept him alive, and that was more than what he could ask for. He was still asleep, so the only sight of him actually being alive was his chest that was slowly rising up and down, and the steady beep on the heart monitor. Both Osamu and Sakusa were seated on either side of the blonde's bed, relieved to see that while his eyes were still closed, they didn't reveal
prominent pain. The ace snuck a peek towards the two older players who stood awkwardly in the room, almost afraid to approach Atsumu, of maybe even both of them.
Don't be. I mean, we can't control what we
Tsukisa sighed.
feel.
They
That's
saved
okay.
his lover's life. Besides, this wasn't a time to be petty. The best thing he could do was give them a chance. Kiyomi scooted over on the bench he was seated and waved his hand over at the two, who looked up in surprise.
My heart.
Come on. Atsu would want you near when he wakes up. Eden flashed a soft smile, which made a tiny hint of a rosy shade appear on his cheeks that were likely covered with his mask, all before they sat down, not too close, wanting to respect the boundaries. Look, Tsukisa. Do you like him? They both looked back at the setter and his twin, who turned his attention to them. Yes, we do. Tsukisa nodded his head. Both of you? Yeah. You two are still together, right?
The music.
Both of them nodded, unconsciously
music.
reaching for each other's hand. The ace sat back, realizing his lover wasn't waking up anytime soon, and looked towards the ceiling. You know, Atsu recently told me that he had no future. He just couldn't see one. All of them stared at the raven with horrified eyes. What do you mean? I'm not too sure myself. He wasn't really making sense. It was as if he were speaking to some alternative self rather than me. But, seeing everything that happened, I'm almost positive that this is what he meant. Asuma squeezed his brother's hand. Are you saying... Yes, I'm pretty sure that Atsumu was supposed to die. The entire room was silent. The only thing that was heard was the heart monitor and Kita's singular shuddered breath. But he didn't.
Because you saved.
Tsukisa lifted his head from a strained position that gazed mindlessly towards the ceiling. Atsumu didn't die, and he won't. He is strong. He wouldn't let anything kill him, not even fate or whatever you call it could take him down. The ace looked at his lover once more and smiled. Yeah, after all, I did promise that I make sure he had a future. Asuma frowned. Hey now, don't go taking my brother. Yep, the protective brother was back in full swing. Tsukisa looked out the window. All of the trees were bare, with the leaves showing their vibrant colors on the ground. While the season itself could easily be described as a season of death and loss, Atsumu looked towards Eden and Kita, smiling with tears in their eyes, seeing the blonde stir in his sleep. Autumn can also symbolize change. Never again would he let them slip away. Maybe he could take advantage of the season and invite the change in his life. He never thought of having more than one lovers, but he'd be willing to try it out. He placed his hand on top of Kita's, since he was the closest, and smiled through his mask, sending a deep blush decorating his cheeks. Welcome back, Atsu. He moved his mask and placed a soft kiss onto the blonde's forehead. Recovery will be rough, and even daunting, but everyone will be by his side to help him through it all.
Wait, that reminds me for 1 second. Shouldn't Eren and Kita be also kind of still in the hospital bed? Like, at least Kita, kind of. I didn't know how hospitals work in America, but like, I feel like here in Germany, they would have kept him at least a night. So, yeah.
Atsumu wasn't alone, and he surely isn't going to die anytime soon. He's going to live. There, you guys got your alternative ending, so please don't be mad anymore. And yes, there was a little twist at the ending, yes. While I originally planned on this being just fluff, because it was going to be the alternative ending, which is going to be a happy ending, because the first ending was just angst. No fluff, just angst.
Right.
However, my brain had different plans. So you got a lot of hurt comfort with a lot of hurt. Thank you so much.
No, because listen, right, this was perfection. Utter perfection. Oh my god, this alternative ending could not have been better. How amazing was that? Oh my god. I loved it. I loved it. Oh my god, so much. I don't even have words. Honestly, like after the first part, yeah, I could have seen that as divorce material, definitely. but this was perfect. First of all the characters, the way you've written them, they were very much canon. I loved it. Wait, one second. It was beautiful, honestly. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Other than I noticed that with my content as well. That, well, I don't think I have necessarily a video that's totally bad. There are some pieces that just click. The way it's written, the wording, the characters, it just makes sense and it's harmonizing perfectly. And this happens like once every 100 videos or so. It's something that happens by chance, and of course the chance increases the more you write, but this was definitely one of these pieces. Like, oh my god, the way the character acted, the writing, it was perfect. I loved it. The first part tore my heart out, I'm not gonna lie. And in the middle of this one, I was kind of like being curious, what if you had kind of a situation of the day repeating itself, you know? I don't know the English title of this movie, but there are a couple of movies that have this trope of the day repeating itself. Like Atsmu constantly waking up on the bus again and trying to save them. And then, of course, the tragic ending would be he can save them by sacrificing himself, or he actually finds a solution where all would be happy, which I prefer, obviously. So that will be also a very interesting thing to see, and another way to explore the butterfly effect, because I'm not sure if this was quite butterfly effect. I mean, it definitely had parts of it, but what I would think is the butterfly effect, is that you change a very little detail and see what kind of huge consequences that had. This wasn't as much of a detail, but I loved it. It was perfect. It was so good. It was so good. Like the alternative ending, I didn't know. You mentioned that in the premiere it wasn't perceived as well because it was so much hurt comfort. I don't understand. Honestly, this was under perfection. I loved it. Just the right amount of hurt comfort. Like, it hurt, but like after the first part, in combination, perfect. And then, oh my god, the way they communicated, like, Sakuratsu and Kita is impossibility, but even if it wasn't, just that Sakuratsu didn't immediately run to be jealous. Oh my god, it was so good. Loved it. And the voice acting and the music, that was an unfair combination for my emotional state. But damn, it was good. It was so good. This deserves more attention. Everybody who's watching this, please do me a favor and check out their channel and check out this video on her channel, because fuck, that was good. I have no regrets. I thought I would have lots of regrets watching this, but I have no regrets. Obviously, without the alternative ending, it would look a lot different. I was close to sobbing at the end of the first part. But, that being said, loved it. Love you, my love, my rhyme, my whatever. It was brilliant. Never stop creating. Never stop creating these things, because they do something. Like, they touch me emotionally, and I think, especially with your writing, they show a very, very healthy way of being in a relationship, and the world needs more of that. So thank you. It was amazing. Have a great day, and that not just to Rai, but to everyone watching. You're an amazing community. Thanks for watching. Bye!